Hello, hello! This was a super fun build. I've been needing a cart for my Pantorouter for, well, since I got the Pantorouter, right? And so for the last few years, I've been thinking about what I wanted in my cart as I was using it, and I came up with a special feature on this, which I think is going to be awesome. Let me show you more. So to get started, as standard procedure in my shop, after I've received the lumber from wherever it came, I let it set for at least 2 weeks. Now, that's my minimum. This is cherry that came from Pennsylvania, and I live in the arid New Mexico desert, so this has actually been sitting for a few months. So, of course, I try to schedule my other projects to factor this. I'm not actually waiting. And then, from there, I cut all my parts slightly oversized. Say about 1/8 to 3/16, or maybe, 5 millimeters in thickness, and maybe 1/4 inch wider in width, maybe 6 millimeters, and in length about the same. Nothing critical. So from raw lumber, I will take all the parts, run one face through the jointer, flip them, run them through the planer, and then joint one edge. Then I'll let all these parts climatize for a few more days. All right, before I cut the grooves for the panels, I ran all these edges through the jointer, right? It just makes sense. And then after the panels are fit and before assembly, I'll hit this with a hand plane to get rid of any of these mill marks from the jointer. All right, so here you can see my procedure. I've got this long board to keep the fence from flexing. Of course, feather boards clamped in place. And I prefer this over a dado blade. Maybe I need a new dado stack, but I prefer this. It creates really crisp, clean dados, or grooves, maybe. So I feel fortunate to have 2 table saws. I can leave that one set up. Here at my bigger saw, I can set up this auxiliary fence, right? And then with that, I can cut the middle section of that groove out. If I need to go back to the other saw, of course, it's still set up. Now, I used to do this procedure at the shaper, but those cutters typically only give you about a 3/8 tongue, maybe around 10 millimeters. Not quite deep enough. I like to go about 5/8. Plus, rotational cutters tend to chip out unless they're a really large diameter and sharp. Now, you'll notice the ends of these grooves are not real clean because I didn't use a flat bottom blade. But in my situation, all of this gets covered with a shop-made handle. And to keep everything nice and crisp, I'm cutting the shoulders here at my table saw, and I have this backer board, just a chunk of MDF. Not only does that keep everything nice and square, it also backs up that last board coming through the blade. And if you don't have a hammer handy, just bang it with a tape measure, right? Actually, no, it's a little bit too tight. Let me make an adjustment. One clear advantage of a unifence is that I can remove the fence without moving the setting. And so here I'm just going to add a couple of strips of tape. This will effectively cut that tenon 1/2 of a 64th thinner, right? I love tape as shims. It's a perfect way to sneak up on tight joinery. And incidentally, I have another YouTube video coming up where I use tape all over the place in the workshop. Gluing up an end panel, making sure everything is square and flat. Yeah. All right, so here's a quick tip for you. So if you're gluing this type of a door, the frame and panel and like a tongue and groove, this type of a joint, it makes sense to me to squeeze that joint with a clamp. This rail is kind of wide, so on those I use 2 clamps. Just takes a little bit of time to do, and testament to that actually benefiting is a slight more amount of glue squeeze. So this clamp will ensure that you get a really tight, strong joint. Yeah? Oh yeah. Since this is a shop cabinet and this area won't ever be seen, I thought it'd be easier to do it this way rather than creating a stopped groove. I just added a piece back in. Super simple, very effective. I hear a lot of people talk about just really enjoying the satisfaction of working with wood and taking your time. I get that, and I like that too, but I also like to get things done because I have so many other projects to do. This double-sided sandpaper block makes an excellent positioner when plunging dominoes or other similar tasks. There's nothing worse than when one of those moves on you, right? Well, I'm sure there's some things that are worse. So I cut this spacer, which is going to be the same size as this. So when I glue this up, I have a reference. In addition, a thin part of it will cover this edge, so it'll help hide that, and it'll also provide some rigidity to this panel. Maybe not necessary, but pretty simple step to do, so totally worth it. So I found this underlayment material. It's like 5 millimeters thick. I thought it would look great. It has a kind of a cool grain, and I doubled them up using epoxy. Thought it'd make a great panel, and I love this type of construction because these doors, or these side panels I should say, or they could be doors, will be very strong because I can glue the entire panel into place. So you essentially create this 5-piece homogeneous panel that, you don't have to worry about any wood movement. It's extremely strong and stable. Notice how I shim under one clamp to ensure flatness. And in about an hour I can remove the clamps and glue another one. Here's kind of a close-up of that material. It's an engineered product. It looks like strips of bamboo. It's blemish free, but be very cautious. Those veneers are extremely thin. Check out how effective this stopped rebate is. No notching or cleaning up the corner will be necessary. Yeah, and all this long grain to long grain will make a strong corner. These rebates are actually where the bottom will sit, and I'll talk more about that here in a bit. Here I'm using these plastic blocks just as registration guides, right? The glue won't stick to them. I love these things. Also, I'll record the time, come back in an hour, and continue. Oh, hey, and real quick, I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for all the positive comments. I absolutely appreciate it. If there's anything you want to see a video on, let me know in the comments. And the second stage. Actually, there'll be another stage where I glue the bottom in. The bottom is just being utilized or used as a spacer. And here the bottom is going in, and yes, it's just a ugly chunk of 3/4 inch or 19 millimeter thick particle board. What I call practical board, right? Doesn't need to be pretty, won't ever be seen, and it'll serve its purpose well. I find it really helpful to have different types of clamps. So I've got your regular old pony Jorgensen pipe clamps, right? And then I've got these aluminum bar clamps. You can see those there. I got those years ago from Hartville Tool, I believe. They have some similar at Harbor Freight, but they are not the same quality. These are pretty good clamps. They're lightweight. But anyway, I have those, and then of course some of these parallel jaw, a couple of Jorgensen and Bessie. And those I like because they have a deeper reach, and they can go, in this situation, across or over those other clamps, right? And then the beauty of a bar clamp, or a pipe clamp I should say, is that it's round, and you can see one clamping head is oriented this direction and the other one is down here. Turn 90 degrees to that to clamp underneath the bench. All right, here's this thing out of the clamps, and it is ugly. You see all the glue here with the two styles going together, but that'll clean up easily with a belt sander, right? And I wanted to show you, I love doing offsets. They add a little bit of a shadow line right here, right? But the other reason is that it makes it easy to assemble things. So let me show you this drawer front. So this is one of the top drawer fronts, pretty narrow in height, right? But you can see this offset here, and a couple of things. So this rail and the top rail, those have been pre-sanded because I can't get to it later because of the offset. But I can also ease this edge, or this corner right here, all the way along that corner. And even on these side stiles, this inside edge and this corner, I've broken those corners. So that's already done. So just makes it quick and easy because you're pre-sanding before you're assembling. And it adds that little bit of a, you know, that offset or shadow line or dimension, whatever you want to call it. So this will have a drawer front that will also have that offset there and here. But that drawer front will be the same height as these side or front and back rails, I should say. Then a flush space for the runner. I have some long 30-inch full extension drawer guides that will be going in there for that drawer, and then just standard drawer guides going inside here. You can see I've added some spacers to catch the rear holes of the drawer guides. So yeah, overall good progress. To flush up those two rails at the corner, for me, the easiest way is with a belt sander, right? Gets rid of all the glue. And remember those offsets? I don't have to worry about the top and bottom rail being in the way. I can just sand all the way across. Super easy, quick, yeah, effective. I don't particularly like hitting dried glue with a hand plane. Probably doesn't hurt it, but it seems like it could with that dried hard glue. And here I'm just softening the glue with heat from the friction of the belt sander. And then I can easily scrape that glue out of the way. This keeps the belts on my belt sanders lasting much longer. At this point, I believe I switched from a 120 grit to a 180 grit, and this will be the final sand. For a high-end piece, I would follow up with a used 180 grit on a DA. And then I like using some heavy copy paper, cardstock, and just to shield, surrounding areas where I can break that edge. For some reason, I miss those corners prior to assembly. So this thing is upside down, and an important aspect of furniture or even cabinets is to put a pretty substantial chamfer on the bottom, right? Especially if this was veneered. You don't want that corner to catch on somebody's foot or, maybe a broom, mop, whatever. Matter of fact, let me show you something. So these are some shop cabinets. I got my sink there. This is where I do most of my sharpening, Tormek, this and that. And these cabinets are made of Formica, right? Formica doors, drawer fronts, and edging, all Formica, right? And down here at the bottom, let me open this door. You can see this really heavy chamfer, and that keeps my steel toe boots or whatever from catching that edge and chipping that. We used to make these individual commercial cabinets by the thousands, and as soon as they were constructed, we would put that chamfer on. If they were scooted around in the shop or maybe being loaded after the doors and drawers were in, the bottom corners would not get chipped. All right, so I'm working on this Pantorouter Cart, and I goofed. So this is the idea. Let me see, does that show up? Yeah, so it's about 31 inches tall overall, 32 and a half, 25 and a half wide. It's gonna be drawers on this side. This is where the operator, me, would stand. And then I wanted to put this, it's gonna be like a drawer, but more like a platform. And that would be on full extension guides. And then I can put some sort of a box, incorporate some sort of a box, make that box level with the platform or table on the Pantorouter for when you're doing long pieces. And I plan on using these full extension drawer guides that I had. Let me move the camera angle, show you what I'm talking about. So I had a set of these full extension drawer guides. These things are monsters, 30 inches long, full extension. And I thought I could just use this without this top clip, because it has this clip. This is designed to go on the drawer. I couldn't find this. So I thought, well, I can just probably drill holes in this to attach to the cabinet and to this platform that I'm gonna make. Well, it didn't work very well. I did kind of a mock-up. Then I did a little bit better digging, and I found the piece. And so this is the design, or this is the idea behind it. Say this is your drawer box side. It takes that clip. This would be like the left side of the cabinet, and then it just drops in place. So that works. However, let's go back to this. When I first made this, I didn't allow enough for that extra clip. So no big shake. What I'm going to do is elevate, raise this a little bit to allow for the drawer guide. And then I can just put like a decorative detail on the outside. So this little bit will just be part of the overhang. And then the countertop will sit over that with even more overhang. You know, we'll raise the overall height by about a ½ inch, no big shake. Yeah, always solutions, right? So the majority of the tops of these components were pretty flush. Just a few quick gooses with the throttle on a belt sander just to get rid of any glue. Make sure things looked good, yeah? So watch how I bump that throttle. Superior control. Yeah, man, that's how you do it. I find it quite comforting to realize that there's mistakes, but there's also solutions. Years ago, I had to take a drawer front apart that was assembled like this, and it destroyed it. I mean, it's all glued in place. There's no room for, you don't need room for expansion and contraction with this kind of type of a drawer front, and you just need a big hammer and some light duty clamps. Fabulous. All right, so a little bit more belt sander action to flush things up on all these drawer fronts. I typically do not spend a lot of time sanding. Belt sander makes quick work of this, well, undesirable task. I should mention that all of those offsets are created right before assembly. In other words, I cut all of the grooves when the pieces are all the same thickness and then mill down the ones that I want thinner. With just about everything finished sanded, I turned my attention to making a few countertops using particle board and Formica. I'm going to have another video on this, including an awesome way to get these saw hinges just right. I know a lot of people like melamine for work surfaces, but it just simply cannot hold up as far as wearing as good as Formica will. Occasionally, if the weather's good, I just spray outside rather than setting up all the components needed for my spray booth. Okay, these two spacers are 1/4 inch difference in height, and these are just standard drawer guides, full extension drawer guides. By offsetting them a 1/4 inch lower in the back, the drawers will be self-closing, especially when they get used, broke in, with a little bit of weight in them. Obviously, the drawer guide component that goes on the drawer box also needs to be tilted down 1/4 inch in the back. So I'm making some drawer boxes. This is melamine. It's a 5/8 thickness. I've cut an 1/8 inch deep rabbet or rebate, and I need to find the distance for the back and the front pieces. So an easy way to do it is put them, outside to outside face like that. I'm just going to clamp these to keep them tight. And then I know my opening, or the overall drawer size actually, is 28 11/16. I can simply put this 28 11/16 on this edge, look over to the other edge, and I know I need 27 11/16, which makes sense because I cut this an 1/8 inch deep. This is 5/8, 1 1/4 minus 1/4 is 1 inch. So, but if you didn't have those standard sizes of material thickness or router depth, this is an easy way to do it. Perfect for drawer parts like this or figuring out rails on cabinet doors. This may not be the ideal drawer material for a quality piece of furniture, but for shop cabinets, it is fantastic. And we used to literally make hundreds of drawer boxes a day at my old work with this method. They're fast, clean, and very strong. When we're open-minded, often mistakes turn out to be blessings in disguise. Here, when I had to add the material on top, it turned out to be a good spot to add screws to hold the countertop in place. So by now, you may have noticed that this rail is actually going to be a drawer front, or vice versa. So by using some tape, I can sneak up on a good fit, and I'm also putting a substantial bevel so when that drawer front closes, it'll just engage easily, but it won't look like a drawer front. It'll look like a rail. Here I'm adding a couple of layers of tape to each side, and this will give me 8 thousandths clearance. That's awesome, yeah. The space under the drawer front, about the thickness of Formica, about 35 thou, although that bottom gap won't really be visible. I find it easy to just let the sharp point of a screw protrude slightly and give the drawer front a quick thwack, and that'll hold it in place. Line up the gap, top and bottom, on each side, and proceed with the rest of the screws. I added a finger pull at the drawer front so you could access it once you click the latch to release it, right? And this wasn't meant to be, concealed or hidden. It's just a good place to practice this type of a touch latch in case I want to do this on another piece of furniture in the future. I'm always trying to think of good ideas, and I practice on my own furniture. And shop furniture is the best place to do that. And here's the touch latch I used. I have no affiliation, but I'll leave the link in the description. I've been using this thing for a while, and I absolutely love it. I don't know if I would have changed anything. Maybe making the drawers not as deep because they are full extension and the full width of the cabinet. Lots of storage, but I could have made those shallower in depth and put a vertical storage behind the drawers for this folding platform. But overall, I'm super happy with the results. I like the ease of accessibility with top drawers. So the top drawer on the right, I'll use that for storage. And I can store this folding platform in that third drawer down also because it won't fit in that top right drawer. So my objective with this platform was to not only create more workspace, but also I can put this is actually one of my bandsaw fences serving as double duty. And now when I need to create mortise and tenons on long components at the Pantorouter, I have this nice level surface to hold that. That is awesome. In the past I've used sawhorses and whatever works, but this is just fantastic in use. I am loving the extra countertop space and this awesome Pantorouter cart. My intention is that this video will give you some ideas for your own shop cabinets or your own incredibly useful Pantorouter cart. Thanks a ton for watching.